Okay, continuation. So, Greek city-states. So, yan. So, city-states are actually considered to be a simple city. It's just so happen they have their own rules and regulation. So, imagine city-states as small nations. A small nation. So, they are independent. They have their independence. They have basic unit of government. So, leader, followers, basic unit. And then also they had complete independence from one another. So, some examples of city-states in Greece: Athens, Sparta, Thebes, Corinth, ano pa ba? Uh, there are so many pero I have a map of them. Ay, basta, so many Greek city-states in Greece. It's just so happened Sparta and Athens were actually highlighted because they have a complete polarized attitude or complete polarized behavior and philosophy. So take a look at them as like blue and red. Okay, like imagine the color blue, imagine the color red, and those are like the personality of Athens and Sparta. So these city-states actually grew differently from one another in terms of philosophy and political ideas. So there are some city-states focusing more on self. There are like city-states focusing as a unit. There are some city-states focusing on art, some city-states on trading and somehow going overseas and dealing with them. So it's they have their different personality, okay, in those city-states. So the first city-state that we will discuss is Sparta. So if you want something to add for Sparta, I'll entertain that. You can cut me off anytime you want if you want to share something. So now let's talk about Sparta. Sparta is located in the southern part of Greece, so near Mycenae and somehow southern pa of Mycenae. So they have this idea of the Spartan life. Okay, the Spartan life. And the Spartan life is somehow designed to be difficult or rigorous. Okay, difficult. One must deny himself of comfort of life, and they all male are actually undergoing military discipline. Okay, so they live a tough life and active life. All healthy male must serve in the military. So this is what a Spartan life look like in a very simple linear example. Let's say a child was given birth. If it is a girl, okay, they're not discriminating over women in there. So if it is a girl, okay, set aside, and then that girl will actually be groomed to be a good mother and a good somehow bearer of child. Because that girl will be taking up gymnastic or anything that will make her body really strong, and at the same time she will be taught of household chores. She will also be gonna be taught of reading and writing, but simple lang, basic. Okay, so that's for a girl. Now if it is a boy, and then let's say the boy has defect, I mean like has some genetic disorder sa body, what will happen, that baby will be put in a clip. There's this clip, and then the baby will be thrown. The baby will be thrown in there and buy for that baby. So it's like infant side. They call it infant side. So they're killing babies that they think that will not last. So in short, the people of Sparta will not take care of the baby with defect and like that. So they are just gonna kill it. Some said when they throw it, they're hoping and praying that it will still, survive on its own and then be taking care of some individuals or creatures in there. But most of the time, the babies are really being killed on the spot because imagine it will be thrown like that, and there's no chance of survival in that. So, yun. So, that's what will happen if a male baby has some genetic disorder. Now, let's say another example, a male baby and then was born in a very complete and healthy being. So that child will be really taken care of up until he reach age of 7. Once he's already 7 years old, he will be put in a military school. Okay, and when he's in the military school, the training in there is very tough and rigorous, wherein the military generals will teach them to steal, teach them to hunt, teach them to live in the forest. So imagine 7-year-old boys. somehow put in the forest to actually live on their own. They have some partner, like an adult partner with them, but that adult partner also will give so much challenges to that boy, for that somehow boy to grow up as a strong individual. That's why when they return in their teenage years already, when they return, they're already a smart and a sly individual that can actually survive. So that's a Spartan life. Do you have any question? Now, you might be wondering why Sparta is so harsh, why Sparta is so tough. Because they have that military state, they have that military mentality that they need to be strong to protect themselves. Now, those male soldiers will be the protector of the realm, the protector of the city states. That's why they're very serious in somehow taking that job. And then during the dark ages of Greece, remember when the Mycenaean was actually defeated by the Dorians. So during that dark ages, the Dorians invaded Sparta. So the Spartans actually viewed that part as their dark part of history as well. Because Sparta is very, very strong, right? But when they were invaded by Dorian, they were enslaved. Okay? They were enslaved by the Dorians, and they felt parang they felt what do you call that? Parang humiliated by that. So ever since then, after that invasion of Dorians, they really promised to themselves that never again they will be invaded. Okay. So what happened? Those Helots who are like somehow Spartans who got enslaved, the Helots outnumbered their ruler. So meaning to say, the Dorians started to see the rise of the Spartans. Okay, so they began a coup d'etat. So it's pronounced as coup d'etat, like that. So they had a rebellion. So the Spartan people who became slaves of the Dorian, they had rebellion, and they are able to win their nation back. Okay, so since then, Sparta trained themselves to be a strong force and never be invaded again. So remember this line, kasi as we talk about the history of Sparta and Greece, this line right here, a strong force, never be invaded again. It's an idea that they hold on to. Okay. So yun. So the Spartan government, one thing pa with the Spartan government, very unique kasi they have two leaders, two kings. Okay. And then that two kings work hand in hand with each other. Okay. So that's why if you have seen the movie 300, who have seen the movie 300? Raise your hand if you have seen the movie 300. And do you like it? It's a nice movie. So that movie 300, there's a king in there, 'di ba? Si King Leonidas. Si Leonidas, the one that kicked the person on the cliff. Kasi it's actually a very remarkable scene in the movie. So anyway, Leonidas, when he went to the battle with the 300 soldiers that he possessed, there's also another king that left in the in their city. Kasi that's the thing about Spartan government. They had two leaders. Para just in case the one needs to go, the other one will still be remained. They also have 28 council elders advise the king. So usually these advisors are former general. Okay. And yearly, people elect ephors or the overseers, direct the daily affairs of the state. So they also have representatives. So the elders, these council members actually, they're the ones assessing the newborn. Remember I mentioned to you that newborn babies, if they find defect on that baby, they're just, disposing them. So it's the job of the elders to to somehow assess that. So they have a very brutal discipline taught the youth to defend themselves like that. And one thing with the education, I mentioned that already, the brutal discipline. So in terms of education, so boys are expected to learn how to read and write. However, further discussion of topic is prohibited. So basically, the Spartan boys are allowed to read, allowed to write, but they are not actually somehow allowed to talk about the topic further. Like for example, there's this topic that they enjoy, and then they're like, "Oh, what's your opinion in this?" Never. It's a no-no to ask for somebody else's opinion. So parang they are trained to just know it, and then absorb, that's it. No discussion. Okay, so no that kind of liberty. So a Spartan must also answer in a brief statement. So basically, let's say if you were asked, you will be answering only one word, as much as possible, one word, or as short as you can. As short as you can. That idea actually now being somehow embraced, and there's actually an English term for that, the laconic. So if you actually have dictionary with you, or later try to search the word laconic. Okay, so laconic actually means now as a word used to describe a person who gives short answer. I do not know if you have a classmate like that. Now, once you ask that classmate of you only answering few questions, because let's say that classmate is so smart, only answering few statement. Kasi we had former students like that in our ICS. In-name drop ko na sila. If you know Rupert Sarmiento, naabutan niyo ba si Rupert when he's grade 12? Ano, Rupert is actually known to that. Whenever you ask Rupert, he's really, really smart. Such a smart student. When you're asking him, he's only answering short statement. He's not that very talkative. Unlike some students, when you ask so many flowery words, and then the idea is embedded pa. It's not there. So you really have to absorb it. Pero with Rupert and yan, Jose Ladrera. Yeah. Those are like my students who I actually define as laconic. They know that I'm calling them laconic. So when I ask them, one word reply. And then I'm like, what are you, a Spartan? Something like that. So the laconic word actually originated from Laconia. So Laconia is a place in Sparta. So that practice kasi of being laconic is somehow embraced by Spartan education, na answering in a very short manner. Okay, so that's education in Sparta. Now, with regards to women in Sparta, it's actually nice to be a woman during this time, as long as you're a Spartan. Kasi they have they have more independence compared to other women during this time of ancient. Okay, so women still must obey, or absolute obedience to the father and to the husband. Absolute obedience. However, they're allowed to go to school. Unlike in Athens, women are not even allowed to step in school. They're not allowed to study anything, only household chores. But with Sparta, they are actually being taught how to read and write. And at the same time, they have this very, very important subject, gymnastic. Okay, to make them as strong mothers. Okay. And one thing with the Spartan women, they can actually choose who they want to marry. Unlike in other portions of the world back then, women are being arranged in marriage. But in Sparta, women have the choice to say no to a man. And women in Sparta are believed to be tough-minded. So they have their own personality. They're not just yes, yes, yes. Okay. The culture of Sparta, they discourage art. Ito pa, this is something, if you're like an artistic person, this is something that, you know, very, difficult to live in Sparta. So they discourage arts and literature, and somehow even new ideas. Yan. So they forbade to travel outside Sparta as well. So they just really remained in Sparta. And ito pa, this is something that's really shocking kasi they prohibit the usage of coin. Okay? Because Spartans look at it as a corrupting material. Parang they view money as evil. Okay? Okay. Okay. For those students who are having hard time in their internet connection, if you're gonna turn off your camera, I'll understand that. Pero those who have their camera on, I hope you interact para so that we'll have an interesting discussion. So that's Sparta. Anything you would like to ask about Sparta? Very rigorous, very tough. Okay, none. So let's move forward to Athens. So ito, finally, I was like waiting for the image that I got. Eh. It's located pala in the latter part. But anyway, here are like the other important important city states in Sparta. In Greece rather. So there's this Athens and Sparta. So it's where the okay. Am I still heard? Yan, okay. So, yan, let's proceed. So, after Sparta, Athens. So, Athens is located in this portion, a much closer state to other portions in Asia Minor. So that's why Athens is very sociable eh. Take a look at Athens as the one that's always going out, the one that's always mingling with other people. Meanwhile Sparta very introvert, only settled in their southern tip of Greece. Yan. So here are like some vocabulary before we talk about Athens so that you will not be confused about the wordings. So in Athens, the word aristocrat is actually considered as the highest class or like the elites or the nobles. And merchants are the businessmen or buyer and seller of a certain product. A noble is also an aristocrat, which is also a patrician. So basically, these three words are just synonymous to one another. Aristocrat, noble, patrician. Those are like the high class. Aristocrat, noble, patrician. And then of course, if there are like upper level, the one in the lowest part of their class are the slaves. So the slaves are legally owned by another person. Slaves are legally owned by another person. Okay. And those common people of Athens are called plebeian. So to have it easily remembered, just have these two, patrician and plebeian. Okay. Patricians, the high class. Plebeians are the common people. Okay. So now let's have the Athens. So Athenians, they are located near the sea, located in Attica, a peninsula with poor rocky soil. So since they have a very rocky soil and farming is difficult, they develop to be like sea traders, meaning to say to get the things that they needed outside of their native land. So they're into trading with other city states. So they traded goods and ideas to the world. That's the reason why the Athenians developed a different mentality than Sparta. Kasi Sparta stayed in their place. And whatever is available, that's what they eat. In Athens kasi, they want more. They want variety. And to be able to get that, they need to go to another place. And when they are in another place, they need to speak the language of that other place. So they tend to be more open with ideas, open in new culture. So they're like very sociable in that sense. So they move slowly towards democracy. So at first, aristocrats are actually the one governing, very authoritative. But along the way, the merchants actually started to grow into power, that they wanted to also be treated equally. Same with the plebeians, they wanted to be treated equally. So that's the slow move towards democracy, na hindi lang sila like one man ruling group, but rather they learn the idea of voting, okay, and sharing their power. So here are like the great contributors of democracy in Athens. So these people. First is Draco. Okay, so Draco actually helped Athens to develop a government based on written law. The beautiful thing about Draco is that he wanted the Athens to follow a written law, na do not just somehow judge based on your impulse, 'di ba? But rather follow the law, follow the written law. Parang Hammurabi, there's this written law, we follow that. So it's called the Draco's Code. So a person must be proven guilty before being executed. So he is known to this 'di ba, can you remember that statement in in law, 'di ba, na you are guilty and you are innocent, rather you are innocent until proven guilty. So meaning to say, if someone's accusing you and there's no evidences being somehow approved, you're still innocent. Okay, no one can say that you're guilty if there are no evidences. So that's the one contribution of Draco in that. Okay. So application of the law to all classes. Yan ba? One thing of Draco is that he wanted everyone should be under the law, or the law should be applicable to everyone. Okay, Draco. Next, Solon. Okay, Solon made Draco's laws less harsh. Kasi with Draco, what is written must be followed. Everything should be adopted like that. So with Solon, he made it less harsh. All free men were given the right to vote as well during the time of Solon. So free men, meaning plebeian and patrician. The slaves, the legally owned slaves, they're not allowed to vote. Ito pa, the sad thing, women are not allowed to vote, male only during this Athenian history. Okay? That's why if anyone is here who's like against feminism, ewan ko lang kung meron sa inyo, pero in my previous years of teaching, I was actually able to encounter a number of students, usually male, a number of students were like mad of feminism that was this and that. And I was like, you cannot judge feminism movement. It's because even in this part of history, ancient time, imagine women can't vote and their only job is to be at home. So, you can never judge the women's liberation movement kasi it's really a long battle, ancient time battle pa. Okay, so also Solon gave more freedom to the lower class. Lower class. And lastly, Cleisthenes. So he just improved. So Drake, imagine it like Draco layered the foundation, made beautiful by Solon or made less harsh by Solon, and then Cleisthenes just organized it. They organized the social and military tribes. So ostracism is like citizens could vote to expel an unpopular leader from the government. So the idea of impeachment was actually somehow proposed by Cleisthenes na people do not have to settle with a less good leader. Na if the leader is no longer fruitful, must be expelled already or must be voted out. So that's Cleisthenes. So if you're actually gonna look at all the development of this tree, you're actually gonna see the democracy that we're experiencing now. 'Di ba? May voting, all men are equal to one another under the law. Tapos the idea of impeachment. So it's like they started it and we just adopted. Okay, so democracy in Athens reached its height under the great statement of Pericles. So si Pericles is actually their greatest leader. Okay, so in terms of education, very different than Sparta. If Sparta not allowed to discuss issues, in Athens, it's encouraged to discuss the issue to the point that they could actually go outside in the park and just talk about the things you want to talk about. So male Athenians must learn about grammar, sports, even arts and music, which is actually not allowed to Sparta. And this is actually the most important thing, the art of public speaking. So in short, as an Athenian, you're not allowed to be shy of expressing your thoughts. All Athenians are good in public speaking and they like debate. They enjoy debate. Meanwhile, women in Athens, no political and legal rights. Women cannot vote. Women cannot own anything. Like for example, you want to buy something, that property is actually property of your husband, not yours. Okay, could not attend the assembly, cannot hold office, cannot own property, and cannot have a business. You're just at home, taking care of the man and the children. Okay. Furthermore, husband and wife live in separate rooms in their house. So they're not also intimate. Na women and men have still separate room, even they are married. So that actually the end of it. So allow me to just show you some pictures of the present day Greece. So this is Parthenon now. In the next topic that we'll be having, I'll be discussing to you or somehow explaining to you the origin of Parthenon, why there's Parthenon and bakit it looks dilapidated now and why they're still preserving it. All because it has a very, very important portion in history, in their history. Kaya take a look at it. Ayan, and so many houses, some of it hotel. Some of it hotel kasi this is a tourist spot. So they surround it. Tapos it's like in a polis, 'di ba? In an acropolis kasi it's in a highly elevated place. Tapos they put Parthenon in there. And then it's been a long time, thousands and thousands of years. They keep it like that. It's already dilapidated, but they're taking good care of that. And once you visited it, let's say you want to go here in the future, you're not allowed to get any stone. Kunyari, kukuha ka isang maliit na pebble and for souvenir, not allowed. Kasi every stone, every fragment in there is really ancient old. Ancient old. Time pa nila Pericles yan. And then this is what it looks like during the evening. And some cliff in Greece. Kasi they're like somehow surrounded by water. So many beautiful seashore, shoreline. Ayan din, another famous temple in the cliff. And yan. So basically, the next time that we'll be meeting, we'll be talking about ito na, when they had warfare. So I talk about Sparta and Athens to you. So in our next meeting, what if these two different opposing tribe or these two different opposing city states somehow fight with one another? So it's like red versus blue. Kaso in this image green. Pero it's like imagine it like two different entity, introvert versus extrovert, something like that. So that's our topic next time. Okay? So yeah.